Wow, let's take a breath together as we continue to move through this September month. I finally got it. This month we're talking about the life-changing magic in decisions. How many people have been making conscious decisions about things you really want? How many people are really beginning to see that work? Yes. How many people remember the challenge we had last week to decide what it is you want or make the decision that you want to have the best life possible, to have to have the allness and the fullness of the life that you were created to have? How many people made that decision? And how many people have been acting on that? Okay, the other challenge was for CLF to make the decision that what we want is to have the very best community that we can have, the very best community, the community that God had in mind for CLF. How many people made that decision? Okay. How many people are willing to make that decision? Oh, that's better. Okay. How many people will do it now? Okay, I'm holding you to that. And that means we have to act on it. Once we know what we want, we make the decision that it shall be, and then we begin to act on the decision. And so that's what I've been asking us to do and challenging us to do in our individual lives as well as in the life of this community. We know that we want to live to live the life we were created to live and have this community be the community it was created to be. And we know that it can be, it shall be, and then we will act accordingly. We will act accordingly so that it comes into being, comes into fruition. And so that's what decision is all about, decision making, those 3 steps that we've been talking about all month. Let's take a breath together. And we have talked about decisions. Last week we talked about the fork in the road. And said when you come to a fork in the road, you take it. And this week we're talking about, are you ready to listen? Are you ready to listen? Are you ready to listen? That's a big, big question. Because, our natural response is yes. And then we do everything but listen. So I'm asking, are you ready to listen? Because there's that knower within each of us is always telling us, is always sharing with us, is always guiding us, is always directing us, is always showing us the way, but we have to listen. We have to be open, we have to be available, we have to be in that place of alignment so that we can hear that which is being spoken to us, that which is being shown to us. Because, there are so many ways that God speaks to us. So many ways. God speaks through people, through places, through things, through circumstances, through situations, through events, through all kinds of ways. And we can miss them all. We can miss them all because there are so many things that clamor for our attention. There's so many distractions that we can miss exactly what it is that there is for us to know, what it is for us to do, what it is for us to be. And so what I'd like to encourage us to do is to learn to do all-encompassing listening. All-encompassing listening. All-encompassing listening. And that's when we are ever available. That's when we are totally in alignment. That's when we are open and letting go of anything that would block in any way that part of us that is always listening, that always knows, that is always revealing itself in and through and as each one of us. And so the thing that I'd like us to know is that 3 things. The one thing about listening is to be a fierce guardian of your attention. Put guardrails around your attention. Put guardrails around your attention because there are so many things to distract us. There's so many things to catch our attention. There are so many things I don't care what we had set our mind to, that we were going to pay attention to, that we were going to do, the path that we were going to take, the way that we were going to go, the things that we were going to do, whatever. There's something that will take our attention away. And oftentimes, it's our electronic devices. I walked into a meeting room the other day, and there were 6 people in there, and all 6 of them were on their phones. They had their phones in their hand doing something. It's like, wow, how often do you walk into any place, even at a dinner, and everybody at the dinner table is sitting up with something in their hand looking at it? That takes our attention away from so much. That takes our attention away from whatever it is we had made a decision about, except the decision we're making right then to be on this phone and to be either playing this game or on Facebook or checking email. And you have to ask yourself, what did you do before you got it, before we got these phones? It hasn't been that long. It's not like we've had these things all our lives, unless you're 5. We haven't had these things all our lives, but now we find ourselves unable to do without them. Got to check my email. Got to check my text. Somebody's calling me. It can wait. What would happen if you let it wait? What would happen if you let it wait? Yeah. You might miss out on something for 5 minutes, for 30 minutes, for an hour, or whatever. And so I invite you to really pay attention to your attention. Where is your attention? Once you make the decision that you can have what you want, then there are actions that for you to take. But you got to pay attention. Once you know that there are actions to take, you got to pay attention to whether or not you're taking those actions. You got to pay attention to what it is you need to do next, because as I've said before, whenever we're taking actions, we're just not taking actions just to be doing something. We're taking the actions that we're being guided to take. We're taking the actions that we've been led to take. We're taking the actions that Spirit is showing us that need to be taken, the steps that need to be taken, the way that we need to walk, the way that we need to go. Spirit is always showing us those things. But we have to pay attention. And so when we pay attention, then we can start to do the things that or be whatever it is Spirit would have us be, according to the decision that we've made. Paying attention. And when we pay attention, then our full energy is behind that, because energy flows where attention goes. So energy flows where attention goes. So wherever our attention is, that's where our energy is. So we want our attention, we want our energy to flow to whatever it is we say we want. We want our energy to flow to whatever decision it is we've made. We want our attention to flow to living the best life we can live, to live the life we were created to live. We want our attention to flow to this community being all that it was created to be. All that it already is in the mind of God. It just can't be that unless we're open and receptive to allowing it to be that through us. And so in order to do that, our attention has to be on the decision. Our attention has to be on that knower within us that is guiding us, that is directing us always. So I'm inviting you today to put guardrails around your attention. Pay attention. Pay attention. Pay attention to what's distracting you. Pay attention. And then you know what? When you find that you're being distracted, then come right back to center. Come right back to your intention, which is to follow Spirit, to follow the guidance, to follow the decision that you've already made. So putting guardrails around your attention is the important thing to do. The second thing, take a breath. The second thing to do is to own the now. Own the now. I saw this little phrase on TV a couple of days ago, and I really like that. Own the now. That's really powerful. Own this moment. This is the only moment we have. This is the only time we have, is now. This is an eternal moment. This eternal moment of now. This is the only moment. So own this moment. Own the now. Think about how powerful that is. In order to own the now, you have to be in the now. You have to be in the present. You have to be fully present right here, right now, fully awake, fully mindful of whatever is going on, of what you're being guided to do, of what you're being guided not to do, or whatever the case may be. But we have to own this moment. We have to own this moment and recognize this is the only now that is, and this is the only time that we can hear God's voice. Is in the now. This is the only time that we can hear. This is the only time that we can stop and listen and hear that voice that is ever seeking us, that is ever seeking to guide us, that is ever seeking to show us the way, that is ever seeking expression in and through and as each one of us. And so being fully present right here, right now is so important. paying attention to what we're doing, paying attention to those things that would keep us, as I said before, from hearing that voice. You know, in the moment, what we can do and what we want to do is to see the hand of God in everything. See the hand, look for the hand of God in everything so that we can participate in whatever is going on. Look for the hand of God in every activity so that we can participate and choose what part of the activity we want to be engaged in. Look for the hand of God everywhere that we use. That's one of the ways that we listen, is with our eyes, with our entire being. We listen with our eyes, so we see the hand. We look for the hand of God in every activity. We look for the hand of God everywhere present, knowing that it is everywhere present. And we just look for it so that we can see what it is that is being shown to us, what it is that's being spoken to us through our eyes. We listen for the voice of God with our hearts. With our open hearts, we're listening for the voice of God always, because it's always speaking to us in so many ways. It's always speaking. It's always available. It's always showing us the way. And so we listen for that. We open our hearts so that we are listening with our entire being. We develop not only a listening ear, but a listening heart. Because God speaks through our hearts. And as God speaks through our hearts, then we begin to act accordingly. We begin to do those things that are for us to do. We begin to be all that we were created to be in that way. By just opening our hearts and owning the now, because it's the only time we can do it, is in the now. And if we don't do it now, then when are we going to? If we don't make those decisions and make those decisions and make those changes now, when are we going to? I also read just recently that we don't have an endless number of tomorrows. That's pretty profound. We don't have an endless number of tomorrows. I believe in eternal life. And I know we don't have an endless number of tomorrows in these bodies on this planet. So if there's anything that we are to be, if there's anything that we are to any way that we are to show up, any way that we are to serve, we have to do that now. We can't put that off. We have to be present so that we know, I'm not here for long. I'm here for now. And I got to act now. I got to do it now. I got to be in the now. I got to take action now. There's that fierce urgency of now that has to be within each of us. That fierce urgency. And that's what we need to have in our lives, a fierce urgency of now, a fierce urgency to reveal the presence of God right here on earth, right here and right now. That's what we want. That's how we want our lives to be. That's how we want our lives to unfold, with that fierce urgency. We don't have time to mess around. We don't have time to wait. The world needs what we have to give. The world needs what we have to be. The world needs us now. What we have to bring to it now. And we've made the decision, right, to be all that we were created to be. Then we need to take action on that. We need to open ourselves up so that we are guided and directed to do exactly what it is that needs to be done in order to fulfill that decision that we've made. And so inviting you to breathe again, knowing that starting off with, when we are owning the now, we start off with doing what's before you to do. Doing what's before you to do, because we can only do what is before us to do in the moment. So when we do what it is before us to do in this moment, then we get to the next moment, and then we get to the next moment, then we get to the next moment, and we just keep going that way. Doing what is before you to do. Do what is before you to do. Do what is before you to do. If you're sitting up worrying about what's going to happen next week, you're not doing what's before you to do. If you're sitting up concerned about what happened last week, you're not doing what is before you to do, because none of that's before you. What is before you to do right now? And right now is sitting in these pews, listening to me. That's what's before you right now. Captive audience. Captive audience. But what's before you right now is to listen. And then after this moment, it'll be revealed to you what's before you to do in the next moment. And that's how we live our lives in the moment. One moment at a time, one moment at a time, one moment at a time. Not moment to moment, but moment by moment. You see the difference? Moment to moment is this kind of action. Moment by moment is the fullness and the allness of life, of living. In moment by moment living. That's how we own the now, in moment by moment living. Fully being in each moment, no matter what's going on in that moment, being fully present to it and moving through it with that power and that presence that is always guiding you to move through it and always assisting you in moving through whatever it is we have to move through. And so I invite you, own the now. Own the now. And then the third thing is, learn to listen for God. Learn to listen for God. Listen for God. We're used to listening to God. We talk about listening to God. And yes, continue to listen to God. Because there are many times that we know we don't always do that, listen to God. I know that I haven't always done that. And I used to not listen because of being rebellious. And my way was the right way. My way was the best way. And now I recognize that God is undeniably, indescribably, immeasurably, inherently smarter than I am. Took me a long time. Took me a long time to recognize that. But it's so much easier now because I know that, I admit that, and so I can just follow along with what I'm being told to do. So I've stopped allowing that rebelliousness and that rebellion, the rebellious nature of mine, to block me from following God's voice, from listening to God's voice. But you know what? I find now that I'm busy. And busyness can also keep us from following God's voice. But you know, whether it's rebellion or whether it's busyness, the result is the same. You're still not listening. It doesn't matter what the reason is. You're still not listening. So if busyness is the thing that keeps us from listening for God's voice, we have to let it go. We have to take a breath. We have to slow it down some. And we have to find a way to do the things we have to do without getting caught up in all the busyness. Do the things we have to do and create that space, create that time, create that awareness of the presence of God everywhere, and walk in that awareness always. That's how we listen for God's voice, always being aware of God's presence, always being aware that God is right where we are, always being aware that God is seeking us. God is seeking us. God is seeking an opening in and through and as each one of us. And so when we have that awareness that God is seeking us, then we can slow it down a bit. We can tune in. We can move into alignment with it. And as we move into alignment with it, then those things that we need to do, the things that the actions that we need to take are revealed to us easily and effortlessly. Ernest Holmes says, "Note that there is an intelligence to which we may come for inspiration, for guidance, for direction. A power that responds to us, a presence that presses against us, an animation that motivates us, a light within us, and that intelligence is God. That intelligence is God. It already knows what it is we're to do, and it's just seeking an opening so it can reveal it to us. It already knows how we can arrive at the fruition of our decisions. It already knows all of that. And the thing that keeps us sometimes from listening and from acting on what we are hearing is, of course, fear, in addition to wanting to do it my way, but fear, that's part of that. Fear to trust, because when we hear God's voice sometimes, we start to question, was that really God speaking? Or was that just me thinking? Was that really, or was that, is that, I don't know. And you know, we start to analyze, we start to argue, we start to dissect it. We start to do all kinds of things that don't do anything but just block and keep us from moving forward. It's a way of procrastinating, by questioning. We're afraid to trust because it may not be. But yet there's that something that keeps telling me, that keeps moving me, that keeps motivating me, that keeps urging me, that keeps nudging me. And you know, I always tell you that something is the other name for God. That something is the other name for God. That's something that's telling us. That's something that's motivating us. That something within us is that which we can trust, is that which we can depend on, that upon which we can rely always, because it never leads us wrong. It never steers us wrong. If there's anything we need to know, we can rely on that presence within us. If there's anything we need to do, if there's anything we need to be, if there's anything that we are concerned about, there's anything that we are really agonizing over, there's that presence within us that already knows the answer. That presence within us is the answer. God is always the answer. Always the answer. Always the answer. No matter what the question may be, or it may not be any question at all. God is always the answer, and that's what we have to know over and over and over again. And I will stand here and tell you that over and over and over again, each and every week, because I know this is the truth. And so I'm saying to you, listen to that voice that is always calling us. Listen to that voice that is always showing us the way. Listen through that voice that represents the open door so that we can run through open doors and stop beating down on a door that's closed. Because we spend a lot of time beating on closed doors. A lot of time beating on closed doors rather than just going through an open door. I used to watch my little granddogs do that. They would just go right through a door that was open. They didn't stand out and just beat the door that was closed. They just wait until you opened it, and they knew that I was going to lose focus and leave a door open where I didn't want them to go. One of them in particular would always just wait. He would pretend to be asleep, just lying on the floor. And he knew that he could outwait me and that his focus was greater than mine. And so he would just lie there like he was asleep until I got up and walked out of the room. Then he was into whatever, into the trash, up on the table, anywhere he could be. Little Yogi. That was his name, Yogi. He was a yogi. But he knew exactly how to be focused. I learned focus from him. I learned how you don't take your eye off the prize. You keep your eye on whatever it is you want. And if you wait long enough, you'll get it. Because somebody's going to forget. Somebody's going to walk out and leave that chicken. Or leave that cookie. Or leave that popcorn bowl. All those things he loved. And he was so focused that he could come into the room that you were in, and he would just lie there, and all of a sudden, you just drop something. Without figuring out, how did I drop it? You drop it on the floor, and then he had it on a flash. And it was amazing. It was his focus. If I could just remember that sometimes and be as focused as he was, oh my gosh, my life would be so much different. And so I invite you to be focused. Be focused, because when we are focused, when we are listening for God, we are in a place of expectancy, and we are in a place of focus. When we are listening for God, everything that we could possibly need or desire is contained in that answer. Everything we could possibly need or desire is contained within that answer. So we don't want to be fearful. We don't want to be hesitant. We want to just know that God is. And I'm reminded of I was in the Agape choir, so I'm always remembering songs and the words to songs. But one of them is I Am the Rock. And it says, don't you know that I am holding you? Here I am inside each breath you take. and my arms are everywhere you are. I will carry you. I will stand this test of time for you. Feel me loving you. I am the rock. I am your place of salvation. I am your strength. I am the hand that you hold on to. I'm the voice that is always saying, I will give you rest. I will give you rest. I am known by many things to some, but what is real is that I'm only one. And my arms are everywhere you are. I have carried you. I have stood this test of time for you. Feel me loving you. I am the rock. I am your place of salvation. I am your strength. I am the hand that you hold on to. I am the voice that is always saying, I will give you rest. I will give you rest. All ye heavy laden, I will give you rest. Let's breathe that in. I will give you rest. God is the hand that you hold on to. God is your strength. God is your place of salvation. God is the voice that is always saying, I will give you rest. On that you can rely. So let's turn within in this moment for prayer. Just breathing in. Don't you know that I am holding you? There I am inside each breath you take. And my arms are everywhere you are. Everywhere you are. I have carried you. I will stand this test of time for you. Feel me loving you. Feel me loving you. I am your strength. I am the hand that you hold on to. This I am is the only power, the only presence, the only mind, the only life, the only breath, the only activity, the only is this I am that is the rock. This I am is my very life. This I am is the life of each of us here this day. This I am is that from which we can never be separate, no matter what. This I am, I choose to call God, but by any other name, or by no name, or by something, it is the source of our being. So I'm calling forth that presence right here and right now in this moment, as I speak the word for each of us this day. Speaking a word of openness and open-heartedness. Speaking a word of wholeness. Speaking a word of truth and trust for each of us. Just knowing that power and that presence of God, that is this onlyness, is moving in and through and as each one of us goes before us, making straight our way in all ways and all things. This onlyness that is God blesses us, keeps us. Its arms are everywhere. It's always encircling us, embracing us, lifting us up, healing us, healing our body temples, healing our bodies of affairs, healing our relationships, healing our financial affairs, healing our planet, healing our broken hearts, healing everything that is unlike the wholeness that is God. This is what God is, that healing presence. And it is moving in and through each and every life here right now. We open our hearts, we open our minds, and we allow it to have full sway within each of us. As I open this circle of prayer, I pause momentarily so you may speak the names of anyone you'd like held in prayer this morning. You may speak their names silently or aloud, and you may speak them now. And so for all those whose names were spoken here this day, I know that God is right where each of them is, blessing and keeping them. There's not a spot where God is not. And so any place on this planet where prayer is needed, God is there. Where healing is needed, God is there. In the midst of every situation and circumstance. No matter what the appearance may be, God is there. Everywhere. Present. Healing. Being itself. Loving. Thank you, Father, Mother God, for this truth that I know. Thank you, Father, Mother God, for the blessing of our lives and the blessings that we are as we go forth from this place. Thank you, Father, Mother God, for the wholeness that is revealing itself in each and every life. Thank you, Father, Mother God, for everything, for everything, for everything. I just allow it to be now. I know indeed that all is well. And so it is.